Oh, hang on. All right, go ahead. Oh, you can go ahead. We're ready.
Great. Good evening. Welcome to the Salem Area Mass Transit District's Board of Directors meeting. Today is September 23rd, 2021. This is a virtual session. Some board members are in attendance in the Senator hearing room at Courthouse Squares. Others are tuning in remotely. For today's meeting, go ahead and call it to order. And then Director Navarro, could you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Absolutely. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Director Navarro. Ms. Colley, could you please note the attendance? I see that we have a quorum here and that Director Richards is excused for this evening. And I will also ask Director Navarro to lead us in a moment of silence to remember September 11th, 2001.
Thank you, President Davidson. As we sit here 20 years following September 11th, 2001, we remember. I'm fairly certain most people here and watching at home can tell you exactly where they were when the 4 planes in a coordinated attack killed 2,977 people on American soil. And 20 years since that tragic day, we do not forget. We remember the innocent people who lost their lives at the World Trade Center, the Pentagon, on the streets of New York, and on that 4th airplane. We remember the civil servants, the firefighters, the police officers, and the military personnel who have dedicated and lost their lives protecting our safety, our freedom, and our democracy. We remember the families and friends who have lost loved ones and will forever be impacted. We remember September 11th, 2001, because this event, no matter where you were in the world, has affected us all. But I'd like to ask, with all the turmoil in our country today, that we honor the memory of those who have passed by also remembering September 12th, 2001, when we came together as one nation, indivisible, to protect our neighbors and really all people. So would you please join me as we bow our heads for a moment of silence in remembrance of the many lives lost. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Navarro. We do not have any announcements that I'm aware of, nor changes to the agenda, so we will proceed to the public comment portion of the meeting. As far as I'm aware, I do not believe we have any written testimony submitted. And General Manager Paula, could you verify that there's no members of the public present to provide testimony?
There is not.
Great, thank you. Next on the agenda is the consent calendar. So please take a moment to review those items on the consent calendar. And if there's no issues there, would someone please make a motion?
I move to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Thank you. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Great. Any nays? Okay.
President
Motion.
Davidson, I'm sorry, this is Linda
Mhm.
Galeazzi. Can you state who said the motion and seconded?
Sure. Director Hinojos Pressy made the motion, and then Director Duncan made the second. And then next we have action items. So the first action item is to authorize the general manager to execute a contract with Clean Energy for the purchase of a replacement CNG compressing station.
Great. So I'll ask Greg Thompson, our maintenance manager, to present the report.
Well, hello, everybody. President Davidson, members of the board, good evening. Tonight, I'm asking the board to authorize the general manager to execute a contract with Clean Energy for the purchase of a CNG compressing station for an amount not to exceed $1,621,448. So the background is in 1998, Cherriots was an early adopter of alternative fueled vehicles, starting with the purchase of Eldorado buses and the first CNG station. In 2002, a second CNG station was added with additional storage capacity. Each of the two CNG stations contained two 150 horsepower motors. They use natural gas inlet pressure to then compress the natural gas up to 4,300 PSI. These two stations combined make up the largest CNG station in the state of Oregon. Kind of just a little claim to fame there. The total fleet is 64 buses. Of the 64, 34 of those are compressed natural gas. And there's an additional 4 compressed natural gas vehicles in our contingency fleet. In December 2019, the district began using renewable natural gas, which is compressed in the same manner. Expenditure approval tonight will allow the district to move forward with the replacement of the original 1998 CNG station. The age of this equipment is measured in hours of operation. The station has logged nearly 50,000 hours of operation since inception, and complete engine overhauls are scheduled at every 5,000 hours. The manufacturer recommends the replacement after approximately 40,000 hours or 8-unit rebuilds. Repairs have become much more frequent, while parts availability for the aged equipment has been steadily declining. District staff conducted a thorough solicitation. The solicitation was posted on our website, on ORPN, which is the Oregon Procurement Information Network, and also sent directly to over 20 vendors across the country that specialize in building and supporting CNG infrastructure. One bid was received from Clean Energy, and a source evaluation evaluated that proposal and found the Clean Energy's response was responsive and met our specifications. Funding for the proposed contract will be included in the capital projects budget of SAMTD's adopted fiscal year 21-22 budget. The station costs are listed in Table 1 with a total of the $1,621,448. Funding for that project is covered through the fiscal year 20 5307A grant, which has an 80% 20% match. So the grant amount is $1,297,158. The match amount is $324,290. The match amount will come from the general fund. The staff recommends that the board authorize the general manager to execute a contract with Clean Energy for the purchase of a CNG compressing station. And I am available for any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions? I'll go ahead and kick off with one. So given that CNG compression stations are measured in hours of operation for life cycle, and my assumption is that we have more CNG buses than we did in 1998. Do you have a sense of how long, I guess, how many years this 40,000 hours will get us now that we have a larger fleet?
Well, we kind of do, since we have 2 CNG stations, and each station technically we have 4 ways to compress CNG. There's 2 stations inside each skid. So we're replacing a skid. So technically two stations. And what we do is we kind of, after the rebuild, we kind of set the hours back to 0. And we don't use all 4 at the same time. Some of it is kind of our built-in contingency. If one goes down or 2 goes down, we can still operate. So what we do is we operate, we alternate the usage of all of those stations to keep all of the hours balanced. So for your question on how long does 40,000 hours get us, my, just back of the napkin calculation, it'd probably be, what we're doing, 5,000 to 8, 10 years, approximately.
That's great. Yeah. So hopefully, well, so that we're replacing one skid. How's the second skid doing? Is it nearing its end of life?
It is. This project we've been working on for a little while is pretty kind of complicated because the technology. We have one skid that controls the other one, and the controls is a PLC, programmable logic controls, made by a manufacturer that's not really supported. So part of the issue was how to put in a new one and still have the 2 of them talk. So that's why we did this kind of procurement before. We had to come back and do it because part of this purchase is to remove all of the old controls from the remaining old station and make it match with the newest one. So we'll have that, it'll be a little more uptime for those. But yes, your question, we will hopefully be talking soon on another skid because it's not far behind this one for overall age.
And I assume that the inherent complexity of making the 2 skids with different systems talk may contribute to the fact that there was only one bidder.
That was, the clean energy, the 2 stations that we have now are IMW Atlas, which was purchased by Clean Energy. So they're more familiar with it. When they bought out the company that did some of our installations, some of those employees now work for Clean Energy. So that kind of gave them, that 20 plus, year old insight, I guess. And Clean Energy has come out. We have hired them to do some larger repairs when we get into those rebuilds. They're quite extensive. So they do have some familiarity throughout the life of these compressor stations with helping us with the repairs on them.
I'll pose the question publicly, but I'm confident that you have thought of this, is that I guess I'll express my concern and then I'll pose the question.
Sure.
My concern with a single bid is that we could be getting gouged, and because there's nothing to compare it to. Based on what you just said of the speciality, it seems like they certainly have the skills. And so I guess I would just like to hear on the record that you're comfortable with the price figure that they're quoting us.
Yeah, absolutely. Part of our procurement is, even though it is a single bid, we do our homework beforehand. It's called an ICE, independent cost evaluation, before we even do the procurement, to get into what we can expect a bid to come in at. And then because we do have a single bid, we really delve into that one. We ask for line item breakdowns, their profit margins, what their when they roll out all of their line items, to see if each line item kind of holds water and is supported by market standards. So yes, we do have that comfort level of not getting gouged because it's a single. We have looked very deep and with our procurement departments help looking deep into what they're proposing.
Great, thank you. I have one last question, but I wanted to open it back up to the board to see if there's other questions. Director Carney.
I would ask one. Thank you, President Davidson. Hi, Greg. Manager Thompson. Great to see you as always. At the risk of asking a very obvious question, but just so that we can get a little education in the process, I know this is about a purchase and a capital investment, but can you just talk a little bit about why CNG and what we're moving to the renewable natural gas? What makes it better? Why is it better for air quality? I spent a lot of my day listening to a climate friendly and equitable communities hearing. So we're talking a lot about decarbonization, and we're talking about moving towards cleaner air standards. So can you just talk about how CNG is a benefit to our community and our fleet?
Sure. Well, compressed natural gas, obviously, you're not using the true petroleum-based products. Diesel's got a terrible name, even though they've made steps to clean up their emissions. They're still not to the standards of what CNG even produces. It is internal combustible engine. It still does produce greenhouse gases, but much less than a diesel, but clearly not more than a zero emissions bus. And there's, I've got to kind of try, because we do have our feet in the electric bus market as well. So, I'm trying to think of the best way to answer it. I think for me, there's definitely pros to both. One of the reasons why we were striving to do the renewable natural gas market, and even I've got some potential to improve on that in future years, is trying to, one, close the loop on where we source our renewable natural gas from, and trying to buy it from markets that would support to be carbon negative. So essentially, the methane that's being produced by farm products, biomass, digesters, that those emissions that we're capturing, refining, compressing into our bus, and the tailpipe emissions are less than what we captured. So there's kind of that, but that's a hard market to kind of support. And the optics that you're still burning an internal combustible engine and producing tailpipe emissions. I mean, that is a fact, but we're trying to reduce that footprint. Zero emissions buses are exactly that. Wherever you get, whether you're doing hydrogen or if you're doing electric, they're not producing any tailpipe emissions. So for the locality of it, it makes a lot of sense. In the Pacific Northwest, it makes a lot of sense because our energy, our electricity, is much cleaner than other parts of the Midwest. Only a small portion of our electric grid is powered by coal, but a lot of it's hydrogen, wind, and then solar. So we're just saying that to say the Pacific Northwest is set in a really good position to do all kinds of positive environmental aspects to reduce our carbon emissions overall. I know President Davison is very involved. We've been talking with how do we set goals, and we're working through that. How do we look at our future vehicle procurements to be able to make those decisions? And there's a lot of things to consider. Does that answer your question? This is kind of what I'm excited about. I can go on and on.
Yeah, I know. I know that you're like a true environmentalist at heart. And so I appreciate your passion for the subject. And I think that does answer my question. It would be really interesting, I think, at some point for board members and probably for the public to sort of see the comparison of what, if we had, let's just say, a completely dirty fleet, right? Everything was a diesel bus, versus what we are doing and how our purchasing decisions have had an impact in the community in terms of, emissions, what we've been able to reduce through just sort of board direction and staff direction and efforts. I think it would be, for me, it would be interesting, and I would be excited to share it with communities and other stakeholders and interested groups. So thank you again for your work in this area.
Oh, thank you.
Other questions for Manager Thompson? Okay, my last question is, will these skids be movable? Say if we were to purchase a new operations facility?
Yes, they are. I mean, think of them like they are a small shipping container, and they're actually offloaded. All of the compressors, the start capacitors, the controls are all contained within that cargo container. Then you've got electrical hookups and some underground utilities, but for the most part, yes, we can take them with us.
That's great. Good. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, if there's no other questions, would someone like to make the motion to approve this action item?
I move that the board authorize the general manager to execute a contract with Clean Energy for the purchase of a CNG compression station for an amount not to exceed $1,621,448.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion from Director Navarro and a second from Director Carney. Thank you. Any discussion on the motion?
I'm very grateful that Cherriots continues to show such environmental leadership for our community and for our state.
Yeah, I will also add that it's no secret that I'm anxious to get to a future where we have zero emission vehicles. But I think the tack that we're taking with renewable natural gas is a wonderful mid-step. While there are still, tailpipe type emissions from like a pure climate accounting standpoint, this is massively preferable to your fossil fuel derived compressed natural gas. So I'm really encouraged by that. I'm glad that this will still allow us to be able to move, to expand, to hopefully have in place infrastructure to allow us to fully embrace that zero emission future. But this is great. Thank you for all the due diligence. So if there's no other discussion on this, all those in favor, say aye.
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 I believe that was unanimous, but I'll ask, any opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Next on our agenda is authorize the general manager to execute a contract with Sturtle Connie for the purchase of 2 in-ground heavy-duty lifts. General manager.
Okay, and we'll ask Greg Thompson to continue on with this report.
Well, President Davidson and members of the board, great to see you again. It's been a while. Tonight, I'm asking for more money. Now, I'm asking for the board to authorize the general manager to authorize a contract with Sturtle Coney for the purchase of 2 heavy-duty in-ground lifts. So currently at the Del Webb Maintenance Facility, we use several types of lifts to facilitate the repairs of vehicles on our various fleets. Under the heavy use conditions, the manufacturer states that these type of lifts have a typical 20-year useful life when properly maintained. 6 of these lifts were installed when Cherriots first occupied the building in 1989, which is 32 years ago. So they've exceeded their life and they've been very well maintained, but it's time for new ones. Because the size of the size of the vehicles and the wheelbases have changed on the buses and the fleets throughout the years. We have bays that we're not able to work on the engine compartment of the door with the doors of the shop closed. You have to open the door to get in. So we need to do some repositioning of some of those lifts. And we do have the room to do that. Many of the in-ground lifts had their main lifting pistons rechromed 14 years ago because the seals would leak. That did extend their useful life. However, repairs on the lifts are becoming more frequent and increasingly costly. Last month, for example, the lift repair on 2 lifts included saw cutting through 14 inches of concrete and jackhammering to access an air line that did the unlocking for one of the safety locks on the lift, but it was imperative that works and it functions as was built. Current lifts are paired together in sets of 2 and share a 100-gallon hydraulic fuel reservoir that could pose a leak in the event of could pose an issue in the event of a leak. Phase 1 of this project is to purchase and install 2 new in-ground lifts per year until all 6 lifts have been replaced. Approval for the civil work portion of this project will be presented at a later board meeting. New heavy-duty lifts have a higher degree of safety and reliability. New lifts will be safer to use because the operator is positioned in a better way to view how the bus is being lifted. And if the bus was to come off the lift, they aren't in that way. The new lifts pose less of an environmental risk because each lift only uses 5 gallons of biodegradable oil for the lifting part of it. And the proposed Sturtevant-Coney lifts will be very similar to the lifts that were installed in what we call the new section of the shop in 2008. So there will be some consistency in the equipment. The lifts themselves will be purchased through the Washington State NASPO contract. These contracts meet the requirements of a competitive procurement as well as the federal terms and conditions. Funding for this proposed contract will be included in the capital projects budget of SAMTD's fiscal year 21-22 budget. Vehicle lift costs are $120,142 each for a total of $240,284. The fiscal year 27, these will be funded with the fiscal year 2017 5307A, which has an 80-20% match. The grant amount is $192,227. The match amount is $48,057. So staff recommends that the board authorize the general manager to execute a contract with Sturtevant-Coney for the purchase of 2 heavy-duty in-ground lifts. And I am available for any questions.
Are there any questions for Manager Thompson?
I got a question.
Please.
Thank you. So one of the questions I had is that you mentioned in the background that one of the issues that you had with the previous lifts was airlines that had been in the ground. Is that something that's going to happen with these new lifts that are going to be installed? Are you going to be using in-ground airlines to lock for the locking mechanism as well?
That's actually a great question. So the lifts that we're looking to replace are a little bit different style. They're a two-post lift. The new lifts are they lift kind of the same way, but it's a scissor lift mechanism. Okay. And the way that the construction portion goes, they kind of are in a cartridge of their own and not built around a fabricated cement structure. So think of it as a rectangle in the ground that you set this cartridge in. So we can move them out if we do move locations, and the routing for the electrical, the hydraulic, and the airlines are much easier to reach.
Yeah, I've seen those 2-post lifts typically run up into the ceiling, right? And then they come down into the post. Is that how you guys are running these 2-post lifts?
Oh no, the posts actually retract into the ground, and then when there's no bus, they're essentially flat. When you pull the bus up, it lifts it by the axles, and the 2 hydraulic posts lift the bus up off the ground.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited. I've worked on my job in the military was a mechanic, and we didn't really have a whole lot of lifts when I was deployed, but we had bottle jacks, and so I really appreciate having a lift, and I'm excited to check these out and see how they work. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Any other questions? Director Carney.
Thank you, President Davidson. In reading the background and findings for this, and trying to kind of visualize the shop, which I have the benefit of doing. I know some of our board of directors haven't maybe had the opportunity to visit, but it says that you're needing to leave the shop door open because the bus lengths have gotten longer when you're working on buses. So with the purchase of these new lifts, you're going to be able, I'm kind of maybe reading between the lines, although maybe you said this, you're going to be able to reposition things so you can close the shop doors?
Yes, exactly. So there's going to be a couple modifications we'll make to kind of the layout on how the lifts go. There's a couple bays that we drive the buses forward into the shop and lift from there. One of those will be turned around, so it'll be now a back-end bay. And then the bays, absolutely, that the engine compartment door butts right up to the outside door. We'll be moving that whole lift forward more so into the shop, so there'll be room to work all the way around it. And interesting, some of the people that have been tenured, they remember then when we first got one size of lift, we've already moved these existing lifts 3 feet forward at one point, and it's still not enough. So we're going to grab quite a bit more space because we have room where the buses come together nose to nose in the shop. We've got a lot of room in between there they'll be closer together on the front side, but lots of room on the back side.
Oh, that's helpful. Now I can kind of imagine. And so what I'm hearing based on those comments is the shop itself is big enough. It's just the position of the lifts that are making things difficult in terms of maintenance. So we don't have to worry that the shop lacks capacity to sort of house all of our new lift purchases when we get to that place and replace them all. We're in good shape there. We just need to sort of move the furniture around.
Exactly, 100%. Just kind of, keeping up with the times and trying to do what we can to future-proof it. To, build some extra, and in case, we get, longer buses or, who knows what's coming next. But, our electric buses are, they are about 10 inches longer wheelbase on a 40-foot bus. So they'll be growing just in the near future.
Interesting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions? Okay, I've got, I'll say one. And you may have mentioned this verbally, but where's the match coming from?
The match, I don't know if Denise is on the call. I'm pretty confident the match is coming from general fund.
Yeah, that is correct, general fund.
Okay,
General fund. Okay,
great, thank you.
thank you.
If there's no other questions, would someone like to make a motion?
I'll move that the board authorize the general manager to execute a contract with Sturtle Coney for the purchase of 2 in-ground heavy-duty lifts for an amount not to exceed $240,284.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion from Director Carney and a second from Director Navarro. Any discussion on the motion?
I actually, this is not I'm sorry for the interruption, Chief. Go ahead, Director Nguyen.
No, go ahead. I'll yield to you.
Thank you. I did have one more question on the staff report itself. Just second to last paragraph on the first page, it says approval for the civil work portion of this project will be presented at a later board meeting. Can you help me understand what the civil work portion is?
Oh, sure, absolutely. So to be clear, so this purchase, this authorization tonight is just for the physical lifts themselves off of the Washington State price agreement. The phases all through one vendor of the removal, the construction portion, the installation, and the prep for the new lifts is all included in the civil work. And that'll be coming under another contract through a different procurement at hopefully next month's board meeting.
Thank you. That's kind of what I assumed. I just wanted to make sure.
Director Nguyen?
Great. Thank you, President Davidson. I just want to send kudos to the development team who grant wrote this, because obviously with agenda item G1 and G2, we see that we were able to get federal matching dollars from the 5307A grant. So that took much planning and foresight. So much appreciation to the staff who made that available to us.
Thank you for that, Director Nguyen. Others?
I only have a complaint that I still haven't gotten to see the Del Webb facility. So So I expect to get to see those new shiny new lifts whenever we get them and get them installed.
Absolutely. Anytime I think, you can get with Alan, I give tours, weekly. I'm here all the time.
Great. I just wanted to note that if 6 of those lifts are as old as I am, and if they've been lifting heavy buses this whole time, they're due for retirement. So well earned, and thank you for this. So if there's no other discussion items, we'll go ahead with the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously. Well, thank you, Manager Thompson, for those 2 action items. Next,
you.
we'll move to what is listed in our agenda as a potential action item, but it will be an action item on the General Manager's performance evaluation and compensation. So to give a little background, it was at least a month ago, perhaps 2 months ago, we conducted a survey amongst current board members, as well as the 2 board members who just left the board, to do a evaluation of General Manager Pollock's work as the General Manager of Cherriots. And I will just say here publicly for the record that the review is amongst one of the best reviews I've seen of someone working in that kind of position. Very high praise all across the board, very high marks on the each of the, it was on a Likert scale, and very high marks on that. And so that information informed a decision-making process that we as board members have conducted in executive session, or excuse me, not decision-making, but a discussion point that we have made throughout executive session. And so before we get to an action item, I just wanted to acknowledge here publicly some of the great work that General Manager Pollock has done, and then I'll open it up to other board members to chime in as well. But there's just a couple items that I wanted to flag. First is that in the past year, I think it goes without saying, but I'll say it anyways, that this year has been incredibly difficult for most everyone. It has been particularly difficult for public transit. And General Manager Pollock has managed this agency with equanimity and with grace, and has, I think, served our constituency, both riders as well as employees, very well. We have weathered, or are continuing to weather, a very difficult year. And I think General Manager Pollock's leadership in the public transit industry is a undervalued asset at Cherriots. Having him at tables, with a seat at the table in all kinds of different settings, paid dividends to the work that Cherriots does. I will let others speak to more in particulars, but I just want to say that I'm particularly grateful that General Manager Pollock is our General Manager for Cherriots for Salem Area Mass Transit District. And I'll go ahead and open it up to others on the board that would like to speak. Director Nguyen.
Thank you, President Davidson. General Manager Pollock, I just, again, in the, is it 5 or 6 pillars of strategic priorities, I want to commend you on focusing on providing an exceptional customer experience and a culture of excellence within the team, as well as what I'll agree on with President Davidson, but also emphasize is ensuring the organizational viability and the environmental responsible organization legs. You've done above and beyond in securing, advocating the federal dollars that helped to go and provide safety and security to our staff. Not only that, but helped save jobs in a very dire situation that we're faced with in a global pandemic. So again, just want to send you major kudos for all of the wins that you were able to attain with the help of our lobbyist CFM CFM Strategic, I forget their full name, but the folks, our lobbying team. Thank you, General Manager Pollock.
Thank you, Director Nguyen. Others?
I'd like to say something.
Please.
Thank you. I haven't known General Manager Pollock for very long. I've been here for a very short period of time, but in that very short period of time, it's been nothing but great. It's been nothing but great things. When it came to the onboarding of the new directors, you were there with us every step of the way. You've kept in communication with us. When I talk about Cherriots in the community, it's typically, oh, you guys have Alan. You guys are lucky. And we are. And I just want to say thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Director Navarro. Director Carney or Director Duncan, don't feel obligated to say anything, but if you would like to. And Director Hinojosa-Presi.
Happy to share my thoughts, President Davidson. Thank you. Yeah, I really I want to echo the sentiments that many have already shared. I think, as a local leader, Alan's presence here in Salem has been really enduring. And I think that endurance has paid off for us as community members, but also as board members, because he's really been able to carry forth some of the vision that he arrived here in Salem with. And so I commend his local leadership, as well as his state and national leadership. As Ian pointed out, some of the high level national conversations that he is a part of are an undervalued asset to our community and to this transit district. But I want to say, from the perspective of a state agency employee who spends time in the Capitol during the session, Alan's willingness to participate and testify at state level decision-making hearings is a benefit as well, not just us here, but to the entire state of Oregon when it comes to advancing issues related to transit that help communities thrive. And as others have said, his leadership of the district and his community leadership throughout this pandemic has been superlative. This has been a very difficult time for us all, and I feel like Alan has been right there in step with people who have been on the front lines, driving our buses, maintaining our buses, and working for our transit district every day. And I have a ton of appreciation for that. And then finally, I would just like to say, I think that Alan's leadership in the district really does make Cherriots an employer of choice. And I think that it leads to staff retention, and that sort of tenure and that ability for people to grow and develop within their positions is something that we see the benefit of when we see presentations from somebody like Kiki Doman, who is now working at a level of national leadership within, is it APTA, Alan?
ACT, Association of Commuter Transportation.
Thank you. And then I'm forgetting the name of the gentleman that was promoted to a transit supervisor not too long ago, but that's somebody who has sort of moved along through different development phases. I mean, he was not a transit supervisor when I was working with the district. And it's just great to see that kind of attention given to promoting from within and to developing the staff members. And I'm grateful for your leadership at the district level, but really as a community member. So thank you so much.
I'm a big crybaby, so I won't take too much time.
Thank you.
But I too echo a lot of the sentiments. I really appreciate all the work that you've done, just the way that you're able to see like the bigger picture to lead us into all of these big, amazing milestones that Cherriots has been able to achieve. I really appreciate your leadership and your work. And also the fostering and the engagement that you have with the community. I mean, I wouldn't be on this board if I hadn't have met you, some years ago now. So I really appreciate all the work that you're doing. And I do hope that you take the time to celebrate all these wins.
I guess that leaves me. So I also haven't known you a particularly long time. That being said, I joined Cherriots just after 2020 COVID. It would have been very easy to come on and see kind of everything falling apart, and that is absolutely not what I came to find. CDL program, Forefront, having people on staff that are able to help with certification, the new mapping software that we're bringing on, Forefront, working with other states to bring on cutting edge technology, the grant awards that we have that are above average for the nation, and our environmental standards. I think that all speaks for itself. Not to mention, I just run into you in the community. I do community work not just for Cherriots, but for my job. It's part of what I have to do. And I just ran into you just the other day. I was at a networking event, and there you were being part of the community. You sit on boards yourself for other nonprofits, and just, we're very lucky to have you here. So thank you.
So, Mr. President, if I may?
Please.
So first off, to all of you, thank you for that acknowledgement of my performance, but it does take the whole team, and I'm a proud member of Team Cherriots, and everyone has really been pulling their weight, and so I thank you for the comments, but I would like to ensure that that gets passed on to the entire staff and workforce, because I'm just one of many who are doing a great job, so thank you.
Thank you, General Manager Pollock. And for those that may be tuning in at home, when we talk about these wins, they may seem intangible. So I just want to highlight one anecdote, which was in the early part of July this year, there was a 1 week period where Cherriots secured $12 million in funding. $6 million from the state and $6 million from the federal government. And while while General Manager Pollock, as he just noted, can't take credit for all of that, I think the persistence and the leadership demonstrated by him, his executive team, and others put in motion to where we were able to secure $12 million in a seven-day period. And that was a really great week. But what wasn't present were, in the case of the state funding, many years worth of work. In the case of the federal funding, also many years of work. Now that I'm thinking of it, and so I think I just want to stress that there are concrete benefits that the community is receiving as a result of your leadership. So thank you, General Manager.
Thank you.
So with that, I would entertain a motion dealing with the General Manager's compensation.
I would like to move to provide General Manager Alan Pollock a bonus of $10,000, $10,696.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
We have so a motion from Director Hinojosa-Pressy and a second from Director Carney. Thank you, Director Carney. Any discussion on the motion?
Point of clarification, President Davidson. This
Please.
is in addition to the 3% COLA that the rest of the staff also received.
Correct.
Thank you.
Here, I'll take an opportunity to explicitly tie some of the conversations or the discussion that we just had on General Manager Pollock's performance, that this merit bonus is, in our minds, intentionally linked to the exemplary performance that the General Manager has done over this past year. And so this decision was not taken lightly, and we believe it is well earned.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay, seeing no other discussion, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you, everyone, and thank you, General Manager. Next, we'll proceed to the informational reports, the first of which is a security report for fiscal year 2021.
Thank you. I'll ask Karen Garcia, our Security and Emergency Manager, to present the report.
Good evening, President Davidson and members of the board. This evening, I am here to present the fiscal year 2021 security report. Each year, we provide the annual security report to highlight the activities provided by Cherriots staff, Salem Police Department, and our private security provider, which is currently Allied Security. Next slide. So as you can see, and as many of you are aware, we use a multi-agency approach to meet the needs of our security at Cherriots. That is comprised of 4 different entities: Cherriots staff, our agreement with Salem Police Department, one of our security providers, which is Allied Universal, who provides security at the transit centers, and then a new partner that we have in DPI security that I'll talk about later on in the presentation. Next slide. So the security team responsible for providing a world-class customer experience, responding to safety and security concerns at the transit centers and around our properties and in the service area. They are there to provide a deterrent to unwanted behavior and to be a security presence to improve safety and security for employees, riders, and members of the general public, as well as engage in ordinance enforcement at the transit centers. Next slide. Our private security provider, again, is Allied Universal Security. They provide security staff at our transit centers, both Kaiser Transit Center and the Downtown Transit Center. They also support our operations supervisors when there is a need for security support out in the system. For instance, if we have a problem out in a shelter, many times an operations supervisor will respond to the Downtown Transit Center, pick up a security officer, and take them out to that event or activity in the system for their support and assistance. They provide service to our employees and to our ridership. They do enforcement of our ordinances. They respond to events on the property and around the property to provide a safe environment for all. They also contact the police when there's activity that is beyond the scope of their services or their abilities or legal authority. Next slide. Another key component to our security team is the Salem Police Department. We have a long-standing agreement with the City of Salem for police services. We have an intergovernmental agreement that allows us to contact an officer directly during certain hours of the service week. That officer works primarily in the downtown core and is part of the downtown enforcement team. So we work closely with this team of officers to meet the needs of Cherriots. For instance, we have them respond to criminal activity on our transit center. They also support and provide police presence when there are activities on the city sidewalk surrounding the courthouse square block where we have no jurisdiction and cannot take action. They're also a wonderful conduit to community services for people that are using the service or on our property that are experiencing mental health issues. They provide outreach to youth and provide support to the youth in our community. And additionally, they've been very helpful in helping us address the needs of our homeless riders at the Downtown Transit Center. Next slide. We are going to see some unusual numbers in this fiscal year. You know, typically I compare last year to the year before, and we see some similar things happening, but I'm sure as many of the other reports, annual reports that the board has seen recently, you know, things were a little bit different in fiscal year 21. A lot of that had to do with service levels that we provided, the ridership numbers being way different than they were pre-COVID. But I think for security, one of the most important things that changed our numbers during this fiscal year were the constantly changing requirements to ride the service for our riders. That would include things like the mask mandates and essential trips only and social distancing. All those things kind of fell on the backs of our security staff to help get our riders in compliance with those rules as they changed on a pretty ongoing basis over the last year between federal and state guidelines. So let's get into it. Next slide, please. This first slide shows our customer service contacts. And just to provide some context, the blue shows fiscal year 20 and the red shows fiscal year 21. On this particular slide, the Downtown Transit Center is on the left and Kaiser Transit Center is on the right. So as you can see, in the fourth quarter of fiscal year 20, the number of customer service contacts greatly increased, and it continued to increase all the way through fiscal year 21. These customer contacts were when we have contact with an individual trying to help them ride the service successfully, helping them understand what the requirements are to ride, letting them know that there are new mask requirements, things of that nature. And if you remember, during much of fiscal year 21, our customer service lobby unfortunately was closed. And so our customers, the only access that they had to our customer service representatives was through the telephone. So seeing a security officer on the center island or around the transit center, they were kind of the go-to people for our ridership to ask questions about the service and what new news there was this week that they needed to know to ride Cherriots successfully. That's the reason for those increased numbers over the last year. Next slide. This slide shows the number of exclusions that we issued on the left and the number of written warnings that we issued on the right throughout the year. So our behavior expectations that are in the ordinances give us the authority to exclude an individual from having access to the property and the ability to ride the service if their behavior is not in line with our behavior expectations for safety and security. So the numbers were kind of all over the place, but I think that they were triggered by different events. So in quarter one, the number was down significantly compared to the year before. But if you remember, during that first quarter of the year, we were in lockdown and there were stay-at-home orders, and Marion County barely got into phase one of reopening. So there was just not a lot of people movement anywhere in the downtown core, and the ridership was certainly down. In quarter two, the ridership went up, more people were coming into the community, things were opening up, but we also saw a lot of irritability and volatility with community members. I think people were just sick and tired of being locked at home. As a society, we were not accustomed to that. We were not accustomed to having our movements restricted and being told to stay home and not go to work. So a lot of the interactions that we had with people at the downtown transit center in particular escalated much quicker than they did in previous years and in previous months. Then in quarter three, we kind of saw some sunshine with the arrival of the vaccine. There was a sense of relief that COVID might be ending soon. And so behavior and volatility and that escalation of attitudes and behaviors, we saw that drop down significantly during the third quarter. And then fourth quarter, I think the significant reason why the fourth quarter numbers went up is because there were so many more people out and about. If you remember, in April, the kids went back to school. There were many employers that brought their employees back to the workplace. So I think the progression of the COVID-19 mandates and activities really had an impact on the number of violations that resulted in exclusions over the past year. Next slide. This is just a breakdown of the types of behaviors that we issued exclusions for in fiscal year 21. The number one reason that we issued exclusions was for disorderly conduct. The second in line was unlawful use. What that typically means is unlawful use of our facilities. Our ordinance have guidelines about being on the property, conduct business with the district, or to ride the next bus to your destination. So if we have folks that are sleeping and camping out in our shelters, for instance, they're not there to use the service, and really they make that shelter unavailable for our ridership. So we do enforce lawful use, and for those that are unwilling to comply, we do issue exclusions for that. And the third most common was trespass violations. It seems like a lot of exclusions for trespass, 13 throughout the year, but I will say that on some occasions we have repeat offenders. So you may have one person who's excluded and they may trespass multiple times throughout their exclusion, and they get extended because of that trespass activity. Next slide. So the next slide shows our ordinance warnings. We do a lot of public education as security with our ridership to make sure that people know you're not allowed to ride a bike here because of safety, or you can't smoke here. This smoking area is over in this other area, and direct them to where they need to go. So our ordinance warnings are all verbally delivered and they are there to ensure that our ridership is informed of what the behavior expectations are, and hopes that they will comply with what we're requesting that they do so that we can provide a safe service for everyone. The number of verbal warnings did go up quite a bit during this year, but I liken that to all the new regulations. The masks were a significant impact on security during this last year because they were required, and then they were not required outside, and then they became required again outside. So it was that constant battle with individuals who wanted to say, well, it's not required at the grocery store. Why do I have to wear it here? And we had federal mandates that we had to impose on our property that maybe weren't the case in the rest of the community. So I think that those were the types of things that really increased the numbers for us this year as far as warnings. Next slide. This next slide breaks down the different types of verbal warnings that were issued, and I won't pour into this graph. I'll just point out when I go into a detail graph like this, the different colors indicate the different quarters. So the yellow reflects the summer numbers, the orange, the fall numbers, blue is winter numbers, and then the green shows the spring numbers. Next slide. This is just a wonderful picture of some of our Allied Universal security officers out on the transit center doing what they do, which is being a presence to deter unwanted behavior and be there for our ridership and staff if they need assistance. Next slide. So let's dig into the private security reports that were submitted. I'll remind you that when I show this data, this is just incident reports that are submitted by our private security provider, Allied Universal, that did not involve police. The police data I'll get to later. Our transit operators also submit incident reports, but those numbers are not included in this report. These all are just generated by our security staff. The numbers were not too bad. They kind of compared to the previous year, except for Q4 was an outlier. We had a number of disorderly conducts, trespass incidents, but also we had a lot of medical calls, graffiti and vandalism, which are not uncommon. Again, in that Q4, there were a lot more people going to work. Children were returning to school. There was just a lot more activity on the transit centers than what we had seen in the previous quarters. Next slide. Again, this is a breakdown by incident type, and it's broken out by each of the quarters. Next slide. The summary of the security incident reports as compared to fiscal year 20. So in fiscal year 20, the top 3 types of incidences were graffiti, medical emergencies, and loitering. This year, medical emergencies was at the top. I think that that's a common theme year after year, that we have more medical emergencies and graffiti type incidences than any other type of incidents at the transit centers. And then third in line during fiscal year 21 was disorderly conduct, which was a significant increase from the previous year. Next slide. Now let's get into those numbers about our police involved incidents. So let me just share with you that we were impacted by COVID, but law enforcement too was impacted by COVID. They really had to have less physical contact with members of the public because of the concern of spreading COVID-19. They reduced the number of citations that they were issuing. There was kind of a backlog in the court system. So if you were issued a citation, you may not have an appearance in court for 90 days. And so they were trying not to issue a citation if it wasn't necessary. And then there were also challenges at the jail level when it came to arrests and bookings. Marion County Jail really did not want to bring people in if they didn't need to because of that cross-contamination, trying to reduce the spread of COVID-19. So police enforcement changed a lot in the last fiscal year, and we all had to kind of adapt to what they could do differently, what we were doing differently, and try to find a new way to approach things. I feel like the police department did a wonderful job kind of changing their approach to more compliance-driven conversations and negotiation-focused conversations to make sure that it was a win-win for everybody. And if the disturbance was that we just needed that person off the property because they weren't complying, instead of doing an arrest or a citation like they may have pre-COVID, if they could get the person to agree to just leave the property, we were okay with that because it got the person to a place where they could engage in the behavior that they wanted to, and it wasn't impacting our ridership or our staff or creating an unsafe situation. So it really ended up working out. It was just a shift because of COVID that we had to go through. So let's look at some of the police incident numbers. Next slide, please. You're going to see the same ups and downs on this graph as we talked about on the exclusion and warning issued graph, with the ups and downs based on what was going on throughout COVID. And I won't repeat those, but they were very similar. You know, the changes from lockdown to more people coming out and then the vaccine release. So those variations show in a number of our statistics this year. Next slide. This again is the breakdown of those numbers by incident type and broken out by quarter. Next slide. And a summary of the police activity. Again, just like our security officer reports, the types of activities are pretty consistent from year to year. But as you see, the number of calls for police assistance were greatly reduced in fiscal year 21. We had 205 the previous year and only 144 in fiscal year 21. This disorderly conduct was about the same. Most of the other types of incidences were lower than the previous year. And I will point out the non-Cherriots events that are mentioned on this slide. Those are police activities that happen on our property, but do not involve Cherriots. For instance, if someone commits a violation of law off the property, but the police make contact with them on Cherriots, it's an activity that happens on our property, but it's not a violation of our ordinance or a crime that's committed on our property. So we just record it on an incident report and keep it as part of our statistics. Next slide. So in the previous slides, I separated out the private security provider numbers and the police involved numbers, but I always want to pull together towards the end of the report the disorderly conducts, because those are the types of events that cause alarm, not only for our staff, but for our ridership. Disorderly conduct is any kind of unruly or unwanted behavior that causes alarm for other people in the vicinity. So when I pull together the disorderly conducts for the private security reports and police involved reports, we did have an increase in fiscal year 21. We went from 68 in the previous year up to 94 this year. It's that escalation, I believe, in Q2 and Q4 where some behaviors were escalated as compared to the past. Of those 94 events, we had 16 incidences that involved some kind of physical contact between two or more parties. Fortunately, only one of those 16 incidences involved one of our employees, and that employee was not harmed or injured during that event, but there was physical contact made. Next slide. We had some unusual events aside from COVID this year that I wanted to share. Before I talk about evacuations, I want to talk about one other event that happened in June. We actually had a relocation from the downtown transit center in June. If you remember, during that time, there was a lot of protest activity in front of the Capitol, and there was a planned protest at the Capitol in early June, which was supposed to be followed by a march, a peaceful march. And that march was planned to basically go around the entire downtown transit center, which would have blocked us in. We would not have been able to get out or get into the transit center. So we made a proactive choice to relocate when that march began, which was ultimately the best choice for us and our riders, because the march ended up taking about 45 minutes to get around both sides of the transit center and back to the Capitol Mall. So we did have a relocation where we kind of got to plan ahead and practice the ability to move to an alternate site. And it's a good thing, because 3 times during fiscal year 21, we ended up executing some kind of evacuation. So let me talk about those real quick. In December of 2020, we had a gentleman arrive at the downtown transit center with a backpack. He got off the bus, dumped that backpack in the trash, and then boarded the same bus and departed the transit center. So that seemed very unusual to our security staff. So they contacted our security coordinator, who went and investigated. The backpack looked nearly brand new and appeared to be full of something. And so we contacted Salem Police Department because it seemed suspicious to us. They determined that an evacuation of the downtown transit center was in order, which we did. Thankfully, that ended up not being any kind of hazard to our service or to our property. But it was justified to do that evacuation because it's always better to be safe than to not take those precautions and then have a serious incident occur. Next slide. In May of 2021, we had a similar type of incident with a suspicious package. Security arrived in the morning, and during one of their early morning patrols, they found a very large hard-sided suitcase that had been left on the city sidewalk, but it was at the corner of Church and Shembekada near the northeast stairwell exit from the parking garage. So right adjacent to the transit center. Again, this was something that we could not determine the source. We investigated through our camera resources and we could not find how that item was placed there or why or by whom. So we contacted the police. They again recommended an evacuation from the transit center. At the end of their investigation, they determined that it was safe for us to return, and we did so. And then the last event, which was also in May, actually occurred up at the Kaiser Transit Center. It was a building evacuation only, not an entire transit center evacuation, but we had a cleaning solution that was being used in the public restroom area. It somehow mixed with another solution in that facility and started causing fumes. The facilities worker noticed that there was a problem immediately, informed everyone and got everybody out of the building. Kaiser Fire Department came and cleared the area and allowed the staff and riders back into the facility. So thank goodness for our partners in Salem Police Department and Kaiser Fire because they definitely assisted us in getting us back to a safe state for our employees and riders. Next slide. Speaking of working with our community partners, we try to be a good partner in the community by providing support, even if it doesn't have anything to do with the transit district or our transit service that we provide. We want to be a good partner and be good neighbors to those neighboring agencies out there. So let's talk about a couple of those events. Next slide. So in November of 2020, unfortunately, there was a fatal motor accident on Portland Road. I'm sure that, well, hopefully the board members all are aware of the fact that we have camera systems on board all of our local fleet. And so it was just timing that one of our local buses happened to be going down Portland Road and captured that entire accident and event. We were able to save that video and provide it to the police and aid them in their investigation of that incident, which they were very grateful for because, you know, anytime there's a fatality, we always want to investigate thoroughly and find the cause of that event. So our video was vital to that investigation being concluded by the police. Next slide. Another event in April of 2021, there was another traffic accident that occurred down in South Salem. During this event, a pedestrian was actually killed during that accident. During the investigation, the police came to believe that there was a gentleman who was a witness to that crash, and they really wanted to get a witness statement from him, but he had left the area and they weren't able to locate him. Because of that long-standing relationship and trust that we have with them, they felt comfortable providing us with enough information that we could identify him if seen. And ultimately, our allied security officers located the gentleman at the downtown transit center. They were all able to call Salem Police Department, and those officers came down and interviewed that witness as it related to that fatal traffic accident down in South Salem. So it was really us aiding them in their investigation once more, which they were very appreciative of. Next slide. This last example is less law enforcement and more being good partners in the community. In May of this year, we had several transit operators submit incident reports with concerns about a rider, a longstanding rider who's been riding Cherriots for years and years. So many of the operators are familiar with him. They were submitting reports saying that his physical condition had degraded significantly. He is homeless and has been homeless for a number of years, and we're all very familiar with him. But his condition had gotten so bad that we could not allow him to ride the bus because it wasn't safe for our other riders to be on board with him. So the security coordinator actually went out into the community and made contact with him at one of our shelters and asked him if he was willing to accept services, if we were able to connect him with some services in the community. The gentleman agreed. He said yes. So we had contact with Northwest Human Services. They were not aware of this gentleman, so they put him on their contact list. They went out and made contact with him multiple times over the next few weeks, which I thought was great that we were able to connect the agency with that individual. Unfortunately, each time that they made contact, he decided to decline those services. But we do our best effort because our whole goal here is to allow people to ride. And when they get to a state where they are not allowed to ride because of their condition, if we can help get them in a place where they can get back on the bus, we always want to do that. So anyway, it was a great opportunity for us to work with Northwest Human Services and make that partnership with that agency so that we have contacts in the future if there's ever a need. Next slide. So let's talk about the future. We have some exciting things happening right now and in the coming year. So let me talk about those things briefly and then I'll wrap this up. Next slide. So in early fiscal year 21, we filled the position for security coordinator. Jim Aguilar is the individual in that role. He has been absolutely wonderful in enhancing our security services. Jim oversees the day-to-day security operations and activities at the transit centers. He's done a lot to really provide consistency with our contract security officers and improve our processes. He is also big into collaboration between us, the private security providers, and Salem Police Department. And he's kind of a conduit to bring everybody together to make sure that we are providing the greatest security service that we can for the district. Also, during the COVID-19 pandemic, we've already talked about how it was a constantly changing environment. So I just want to point out that really our allied security providers, they were flexible, resilient, adaptable. I could tell them, hey, we're doing this today, and 3 days later, give them different guidance. And they all just embraced it and did the best that they could to get people to comply with the new or changing needs so that people could ride the bus. So I just wanted to applaud them for the great work that they did last year and for the continued work that they're doing for us this year. Next slide. I am also excited to report that we had an emergency coordinator position that we just filled at the beginning of this fiscal year, just earlier this month, actually. We have brought on a gentleman named Randy Navalinsky to do our emergency planning for the district. He will focus on creating disaster plans and emergency plans for Cherriots, and then training staff to those plans and helping us exercise those plans to make sure that we are prepared for any disaster or event that we might face in the future. Another thing that he'll be doing is coordinating with our local emergency management partners to make sure that Cherriots is always at the table during the planning phase so that we can not only help with our own preparedness, but be there to help with community resilience and a larger widespread event that might occur. Next slide. And lastly, the board approved a security contract with the DPI group, DePaul Industries, not too long ago, so that we could have a security presence at the Del Webb operations headquarters on Del Webb Avenue. We activated that contract the beginning of August, so they've been on board for a couple months now. The reason that we did that was because over the past couple years, we've had an increasing number of unauthorized people entering the property because our gates are currently wide open with no security presence and no one to question or stop those individuals. We were having problems with folks on the property that really had no business being there. That creates a safety risk for our staff and makes our assets that are stored there vulnerable. So we've added security 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at the Del Webb operations headquarters. And that's been a huge addition to the security team, much needed at the Del Webb facility. I think it's created a lot of peace of mind for the staff that work out there day in and day out. Next slide. If you happen to drive by the Del Webb operations headquarters, you'll see that we've installed this security guard booth for the DPI staff. They're stationed right at the front of the maintenance shop. keeping an eye on the perimeter, checking in vendors and questioning folks about whether or not they should be there or should not be there, just to increase the security and safety at that site. Next slide. So that concludes my presentation. Staff recommends that the board receive the fiscal year 2021 security report, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Manager Garcia. Are there any questions?
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Director. Thank you very much. So I really appreciate the report. Thank you so much. You have provided a lot of fantastic information. I wanted to just kind of review for people about the community support and neighborhood partner. I'm very glad that we're working with our community to try to better Salem, but I do know that there are some people that might feel a little concerned about the security and privacy of their anonymity around, using the bus system and being near bus stations, having heard some of these types of reports, and I just was wondering what we do to also protect people in that sense with their information and just their overall being around our areas, and so I just wanted to kind of go over that for people that may have some privacy concerns.
I think I understand your question. So at the end, if I don't answer your question, please let me know. As far as providing the physical security, we have security officers stationed during all of our hours of service at both of the transit centers. The main reason that they are there is to provide customer service and to help provide a safe and secure environment for our riders. They wear bright yellow reflective uniforms, and so they're very visible to our ridership. And for those that use the service often, I think that most of the people are pretty familiar with our security staff. And those folks are in addition to the supervisors and operators and other staff that are on the site that can be aware of activities that are happening that should be brought to the attention of security. As far as anonymity, we do not share our security data. We are a public entity, so if someone had a public information request, that would go through our authorization process. We would redact what we can and use legal counsel as our guidance if we felt that that was necessary. We do share information with law enforcement agencies if that incident involved a police case and they need our information to help support their case. But as far as sharing information about who was excluded or why they were excluded, we keep that information internally just so that we can make sure that people who are excluded, for instance, are not riding the service when they're not permitted to. But we do not release publicly unless there's a good legal reason to release that information. Did I answer your question?
Absolutely. I really appreciate that. I think that should help cover anything if anybody ever had some concerns. So thank you for providing that.
No problem. Thanks for the question.
Other questions? Director Carney.
Thank you, President Davidson. And thank you, Manager Garcia. Always great to see you and to hear these reports when they do come around. First, I just want to commend you for the work that you do for our riders and our community, keeping things safe and providing a superlative level of customer service at our different locations. In the report, it's clear to me that you're bringing a lot of creativity and collaboration to the work that you do in our community and for our district. And I really appreciate the transparency with which you provide all of this information to board members. I do have a couple of questions based on the information that was in your report. One is the disorderly conduct going from 68 in fiscal year 20, I think, to 94 this year. You know, I've read a lot of anecdotes and news articles about other transportation entities, namely airlines, having problems with customers wearing masks or refusing to wear masks. Was that a genesis for any of this? A lot of this? Is that kind of a red herring, or that be kind of an accurate assumption?
You know, I think sometimes, Director Carney, a small, minute event that can start out minor can escalate very quickly, depending upon the delivery or how the person receives the information. I think there was a lot of frustration, as I've already shared in the community, about COVID and about who are you to tell me that I have to wear a mask, and this is a public outdoor space. And we were getting faced with a lot of those types of responses when we requested people put a face covering on. And a lot of folks did not understand that we were under different regulations. We were under federal mandates by the TSA regulations for mask wearing aboard public transit and on transfer stations. So even in the community, if you could walk around town without a mask on outside, as soon as you crossed over the property line and you were on the transit district property, you had to have a mask on. So we got a lot of resistance from members of the public, honestly, about the mask mandate. So, you know, our direction to the security staff was, we're here to inform. We're here to inform and provide safety. We are not going to tackle somebody because they don't have a mask. We're not going to ask the police to tackle somebody because they don't have on a mask, but we're going to do everything that we can to ensure the safety of our staff and our riders and to gain compliance with those regulations that we are obligated to enforce on our property. So the second quarter of the year, honestly, the behavior just escalated. And I really think that a lot of it was because of that lockdown the previous quarter. People were very frustrated with what was going on. I think people were scared and confused about the virus and about people dying. I mean, it was all doom and gloom a year ago. And so that second quarter, when people started coming out of their houses and started going places, it was amazing to me how the tiniest little thing would turn into an exclusion because the individual would respond in a way that just was very unsafe for themselves and other people on the property. So we had to issue them an exclusion and not allow them to ride because of that behavior. So it's unfortunate. You would hope with the ridership coming down that the numbers of those incidences would have also come down, but unfortunately that wasn't the case. And I think that it had to do with a lot of things that were honestly beyond anyone's control.
Yeah, thank you. I myself am very frustrated by the ongoing pandemic and still kind of confused and scared. But I will wear my mask, even probably without being asked. So I appreciate that answer. And then not really related, but perhaps kind of related. This has been this is one example of a sort of society-wide traumatic event. And I think you have mentioned in your reports in the past, and I'm asking this question for the benefit of newer board members, that the security staff that works for you, as well as the allied security staff, all receive some sensitivity training and training in how to diffuse conflict and things like that. I was just wondering if you could speak to that briefly.
Yes, absolutely. In our contract with Allied Universal Security, they are required to have some form of de-escalation, verbal de-escalation training. That contractor uses a system called MOAB, which is the Management of Aggressive Behavior. They teach people to bring the emotion down and de-escalate things. Additionally, this past year, Cherriots actually brought in an outside trainer that talked about pre-escalation tactics to help things from ever escalating to begin with. And when we brought that in, our intent was to provide that to our operations supervisors who were responding out in the field to buses and to shelters, but we included the security staff that were here at that time because we want as many people as possible to have that skill set so that we can help reduce the numbers of incidences. When you approach somebody in an aggressive, demanding way, it is totally different than when you're asking and requesting, this is how it's beneficial to you way. So we really, even though it's not our responsibility per se to provide training to our contract partners, we wanted to give them as many tools as possible to help them be successful and to help Cherriots be successful. And I will tell you, I just can't brag enough about my team, but Jim Aguilar has a ton of experience in this work. He's got a lot of skills when it comes to how to communicate with people. And so he's been great overseeing that day-to-day operation, debriefing incidences that escalate with security officers so that they can talk through what options they have next time to hopefully not get to that escalated result in the end. So I think that with the ongoing and continuous training, we're going to hope to see an improvement. But, you know, we can't control the behavior of others. All we can do is do our best to try to impact how they're going to respond to us.
Thank you so much for that. I think that's so important, and that's really encouraging to hear how seriously Cherriots is taking the commitment, you know, at the supervisor level, at the security level, and at the contractor level. And then lastly, I just want to say, that story about the poor homeless man that was connected with services, but then could not find a way to connect himself to the services is just really heartbreaking. So I appreciate the work that you're doing in that area and the leadership you're bringing to the space. And thank you for sharing the story. I wish it had a different outcome.
Me as well. Thank you for the comments.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
I have a question, and you know, this is just kind of like for my own understanding. So I see that, like, you know, there were some like verbal warnings issued for people like bike riding and skateboarding in the area. So I was wondering, like, I guess, how far into like the transit mall do people get when it's like you need to get off of your bike or your skateboard? Is it, and this might be like too kind of like a quantifiable, or that's not the right word that I'm looking for, but anyway, is it like just people being like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, or are they like intentionally just like plowing through the area? Just because I know like that's also like a viable transit option, so I just want to know like where the line is of you need to get off your bike or your skateboard or what have you, and when can you get back on it?
It's actually a great question. So just briefly, our jurisdictional boundaries at the Kaiser Transit Center are, that whole center is owned by us. So everything inside the beautiful landscaping area is our property. And so we can enforce that ordinance anywhere at the Kaiser Transit Center. Downtown is a little bit more complicated. Some of the transit center we are owners of and are responsible for. Some parts of that block are co-owned by us and Marion County. And then surrounding the Courthouse Square block is city sidewalk, which is city jurisdiction. In the downtown core, there is an ordinance in the city of Salem that you cannot ride your bicycle, skateboard, or roller skates on city sidewalks in the downtown core. That's also in the ordinance for the co-owned property that we share with the county. And additionally, it's in the ordinance for the transit property. So everywhere on the transit center block, technically, you should not be riding a bike or on a skateboard. We try to make contact as soon as we see people. The whole reason behind that rule is for safety of pedestrians. But we use a progressive discipline approach. So if we see somebody the first time, it's going to be a public education. Sorry, sir, you can't ride your bike here. Could you please walk your bike? We take that type of approach, and it's not until after we've done the public education effort multiple times that it would escalate to stopping that person and issue any kind of warning or exclusion. Our whole goal with the exclusion and warning process is to gain compliance so that people can ride. So we have policy that tells us how long we can issue an exclusion for based on the duration, but ultimately it's not our goal to issue the maximum amount of exclusion. It's our goal to issue the amount of exclusion that will allow the person to get compliance so that they can safely ride. So instead of issuing 30 days, we may issue 7 days if we think that's what will get the message across that we really need them to comply for safety reasons.
Okay, so then just like for my understanding, so if I'm at the Kaiser Transit Center and I get my bike off, I have to like walk it like almost all the way to the road since that whole property is ours.
Yes, technically that would be the case. We focus primarily on the sidewalk areas where the bus service is. So they're less likely to make contact with you towards the exit of the property, but technically they still can. The main focus is in the areas where pedestrians are because we want to make sure that we can provide a safest environment for those on foot.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions? Director Carney.
This is not a question for Manager Garcia, but just for my own, because I may have been educated on at least one occasion not to ride my bike on the transit mall. And I'm a pretty frequent bike rider, and it is always done in a, well, not always, the one time it was very mannerly and cordial. But does anyone else find it very confusing that police officers are allowed to ride around on the sidewalk? And does that not send a mixed message to other people on bicycles? To me, that was very confusing at knowing where the line is that I'm crossing over as I go into the downtown corridor, where I'm no longer allowed to ride on the sidewalk, and it's not okay. But they are, and they can tell me from their bikes to get off. I mean, it's just, that part is very confusing to me.
Yeah, I would echo that. As also a bike rider that bikes downtown, if I'm coming from the east, I would take Chemeketa, and then if I want to park in the parking garage with my bike, I would need to continue out past to High, head south, and because there's one-way streets downtown, I would then have to hop onto State for a block, which does not have any kind of, not even paint to keep me protected. In which case I'm risking my life to be able to go up a block and then go up 2 blocks to then enter a parking structure. And so I could harp on this forever. And this is more of a City of Salem infrastructure issue than a Cherriots issue, but it is woefully inadequate. And we end up having to enforce asinine rules that do not serve people adequately. So yeah, I echo some of the frustrations there. So any other questions? Okay, I have a couple questions. Piggybacking off of what Director Duncan said, Manager Garcia, you mentioned I don't want to misquote you, but I think you said something to the effect of that we would need a good legal reason to reveal personal information. And so I just wanted to clarify, is that, when you said that, I envisioned a warrant. So is that what you would typically expect?
Well, because we're a public entity, Director Davidson, we do not require a warrant. If somebody puts in for a public information request, we have to follow those laws and those rules. I am not the manager of the information and release of information for the agency. So those decisions are not made by me, but they would go up to our directors and a decision would be made about whether or not we should release. If there's an active police investigation, sometimes the police will ask us not to release information until that investigation has concluded because it could interfere with their investigation. But if there's ever a question, we would want to make sure that we are protecting the rights of those that are requesting public information, but also following the laws as it pertains to actually releasing. For instance, if someone wanted information about a report and there was information regarding a minor in that report, but that wasn't the person of interest that the requester was wanting the information for, we may legally be able to redact that information to keep that minor's name from being released with those public documents. So whenever we can, we do the best that we can to redact and protect that information, but we do have some legal obligation as a public entity to release under certain circumstances.
Understood. Thank you for that. I'm hoping that you might be able to speak to the kind of threshold that the security guards use in determining when loitering is loitering. I imagine loitering, I mean, it's probably one of those legal rules where it's like, you know it when you see it, but I'm hoping you could like give me a sense of what that looks like.
That's actually a great question. So in our ordinance, it does not say you may not loiter on Cherriots property. It says things like you need to be here to conduct business with the district. You must ride the next bus to your destination. You must be here to await the arrival of a passenger on board a bus. And if questioned, you must answer which route or trip you are waiting for, either that's that arrival or that departure. So for instance, when the lobby was open, All of our local routes come to the transit center at least hourly. So we would allow a rider to sit in the lobby for up to an hour, assuming that the next bus to their destination would have arrived during that hour. If someone was present beyond an hour, that's when security is directed to approach and inquire about, are you here to ride a bus? What bus are you here to ride? Are you here awaiting the arrival of a bus? They start to ask those kinds of questions to help facilitate that person getting on the next route to their destination and moving along. Because if we allow loitering in the lobby, then it makes it unavailable for those that do need to use the service and that are needing that space for waiting. We do have a lot of problems in our shelters. People that are trying to get out of the weather, especially in the wintertime with the rain and the cold. There's a lot of homelessness, as we all know, in this community. So we have folks that don't have shelter. And so they take refuge in those bus shelters around the community. And as soon as our service starts up in the morning, we need to get them to move along so that the riders can be in those shelters awaiting the bus arrival.
Director Davidson, you're on mute.
Thank you for that. I'm especially curious about edge cases. So in the example of the lobby that you gave, my hope would be that the focus on loitering would not be quite as stringent if there is warming shelters are open or if cooling centers are open. Is my hope well placed?
Yes, absolutely. So when we have extreme situations, for instance, in the morning when it's very cold, historically with the lobby open, we would have a lot of people come into the lobby to use the restroom and to get warm and to get dry. And we try to show compassion whenever we can, but we do have to do enforcement at some point because otherwise it can get out of hand and then we have an unmanageable situation. But especially when it's extremely hot or extremely cold or the weather is just treacherous with pouring down rain or snow, we do allow people to stay longer than what we normally would under good weather conditions.
Great, thank you. And then I'm hoping you can maybe speak to if Allied or DPI for that matter have had or experienced any staffing challenges that many other organizations are presently experiencing.
Actually, Allied Universal has experienced a number of staffing challenges during the last year, and not only at the Cherriots contract, but a number of their other contracts. I think that there are also absences because of people being exposed to COVID or having COVID, not at our site. Thankfully, we haven't had anyone test positive that works at Cherriots, but we've had people that had to self-quarantine because of exposures and things of that nature. In talking with the branch leadership up in the Portland area for Allied, they continue to struggle with getting enough qualified applicants into their system and to be able to fully staff all the sites that they're contracted to staff. So it's definitely not a one agency problem. I think agencies across the region are struggling to get enough employees to provide the service that they want to provide.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I just like to say that I appreciate and recognize the challenges that both you as the manager and also the security officers that are having to thread a difficult needle on the spectrum of strict enforcement versus human compassion. My hope would be that we're more towards the human compassion, though I recognize that there are edge cases, of course. And then above all, I want to commend the security staff for really stepping it up for the customer service expectations that were unexpectedly expected of them. And I know that I have benefited from them as a rider. And so I just want to publicly commend you and them for kind of filling in that piece when needed. So thank you.
Thank you for your kind words, President Davidson. I will definitely express that to the group. You know, it is a daily challenge to find that sweet spot, that good balance between customer service and compliance so that we can make it safe for everybody. So we do our best to try to get people to just follow the rules so that they can ride the bus and get where they've got to go. But some days it's more challenging than others, for sure.
Great. Thank you. Any other questions for Manager Garcia? All right, thank you so much for the informational report. Next, we have a informational report dealing with performance. So General Manager Pollock.
Great, thank you. I'll ask Jeremy Jorstedt, one of our transit planners, to present the report.
Thank you, Alan, and good evening, President Davidson and members of the board. I'm here to present the fiscal year 21 annual performance report, which covers July 2020 through June 2021. Next slide, please. And first, we'll look at total weekday boardings by service, comparing fiscal year 20 to fiscal year 21. Next slide, please. This slide is comparing weekday boardings on our Cherriots local service. In FY20, there were 2,439,420 boardings. In FY21, we had 1,537,551 boardings, which was a 37% decrease from the year prior. Next slide, please. Here we see our Cherriots regional weekday boardings. In FY20, there were 81,797 boardings compared to 54,911 boardings in FY21, which is a decrease of 32.9% for the regional system. Next slide, please. This slide compares Cherriots Lift weekday boardings. In FY20, we had 102,041 boardings, and in FY21, we had 47,775, which was a decrease of 53.2%. Next slide, please. And the last service we'll be looking at is our Cherriots Shop and Ride service. In fiscal year 20, there were 4,897 boardings. In fiscal year 21, we had 4,039, which resulted in a 17.5% decrease in boardings. Next slide, please. This section we'll take a look at is the total revenue hours and miles for fiscal year 21. Next slide, please. So this slide shows Cherriots and local, Cherriots local and Cherriots regional planned and actual revenue hours. Cherriots local had 197,814 planned revenue hours and 182,197 actual revenue hours, which was a difference of 7.9%. This decrease was a result of the temporary emergency service reductions over the course of fiscal year 20 due to the pandemic. Cherriots Regional had 25,311 planned revenue hours and planned revenue hours and 18,267 actual revenue hours, a 27.8% difference. The discrepancy in regional hours was partly because of our temporary emergency service reductions, but was mostly due to the delay of implementing planned service increases that were scheduled to begin in September 2020, but were delayed because of the pandemic. Next slide, please. So this slide compares planned and actual revenue miles for both Cherriots Local and Cherriots Regional. Cherriots Local had 2,447,564 planned revenue miles and 2,258,436 actual miles, resulting in a difference of 7.7%. And like revenue hours, this difference was a result of our temporary emergency service reductions during the fiscal year. Cherriots Regional had 493,138 planned revenue miles and 379,704 actual revenue miles, resulting in a 23% difference. This difference was again due to the delayed implementation of planned service increase in September of 2020 that was delayed due to the pandemic. Next slide, please. Next, we'll look at the Saturday totals by service for fiscal year 21. Next slide, please. So for Saturday service, we had 190,126 total boardings. Cherriots Local had the bulk of those with 181,302. Cherriots Lift had 4,661, and Cherriots Regional gave 4,163 rides. Next slide, please. The Cherriots total Saturday revenue miles for FY21 totaled 272,948. Once again, Cherriots Local saw the majority of that total with 206,134. Cherriots Regional had 35,677, and Cherriots Lift made up the rest with 31,137 revenue miles. Next slide, please. This slide captures revenue hours for Saturdays for fiscal year 21. Sorry about that header, that should say fiscal year 21 and not fiscal year 20. During fiscal year 21, there were 21,194 total revenue miles. Cherriots Local accounted for 16,779 of those. Cherriots Lift had 2,811, and Cherriots Regional had 1,604. Next slide, please. The following section will take a look at average weekday boardings by service. Next slide, please. So a lot of information on this slide, a lot to digest. What we're doing here is comparing average weekday boardings per revenue hour on our local corridor routes at 80%, 95%, and 100% of pre-pandemic service. The legend on the right kind of displays each service level and what was used, what months those service levels operated in fiscal year 21. At 100% of pre-pandemic service, we do see that Route 21 South Commercial had the highest rate of boardings with 14.7 boardings per revenue hour, and that is the closest route to our goal for corridor routes, which is 21 boardings per revenue hour. Next slide, please. So this slide is similar. We see this is for our local coverage routes by service level. And we see that Route 16 Wallace Road had 9 boardings per revenue hour during 100% of pre-pandemic service. And it's that's the closest to our goal of 10 boardings per hour for our local coverage routes. Next slide, please. This slide compares our regional routes boardings per revenue hour by service level. Route 40X, which serves Independence, Monmouth, and Dallas, had 6.2 boardings per revenue hour, which is the closest to our goal of 10 boardings per revenue hour for our regional routes. Next slide, please. Now we'll take a look at our Saturday boardings by service for fiscal year 21. Next slide, please. This slide takes a look at Saturday boardings per revenue hour on our local corridor routes. We didn't see the service reductions on Saturday service that we did for our weekday service, and so this data is much more easy to digest. So as we can see, Route 19, Broadway River Road, which connects Downtown Transit Center with Kaiser Transit Center, had the highest rate of boardings per revenue hour with 17.5. Next slide, please. And for our local coverage routes, Route 7, Mission Street had the highest rate of boardings with 7.9 boardings per revenue hour. Next slide, please. And the highest rate of boardings per revenue hour on our regional service was the Route 40X, Polk County, Salem Express with 5.1 boardings per revenue hour. And that concludes my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions you all may have.
Are there any questions for Mr. Jorstad? Director Carney.
Thank you, President Davidson. This may be asking you to speculate on something that you don't know about, but I don't think the 40X has always been like our #1 regional route, but it seems to be like really leading the pack right now with the Independence Monmouth connection. Is that Western Oregon University relationship? What is driving that traffic back and forth? I know the 1X is connecting people to Wilsonville and then to Smart and maybe to TriMet and things like that. And I think there was a long time that was like our top performing regional route. So I'm just curious if you have any insight on why 40X is out in front.
Sure. Well, you bring up 1X. Historically, the 1X and the 40X have been pretty close. And so now that we're not seeing the ridership on the 1X, the 40X, it's connecting 3 communities to Salem. There's actually 3 cities, Monmouth, Independence, and Dallas. So there is definitely the ridership capability on that route. And I think that's what we're seeing is it's just always done a little bit better than our other regional routes. We do offer more service on the 40X compared to our other regional routes, which of course is going to drive up ridership. So that's a huge part of it as well.
Great, thanks for that answer. And is it still, are we using, because the regional buses are kind of a different bus altogether than our local transit buses.
Sure.
And then I think the 1X is something we might call a superliner.
I have never heard that term before, and I'm not saying that's not what they're called.
I might have just made it up.
That's great. Let's go with that. So yeah, the 40X, and somebody can step in on this if I'm telling this incorrectly, but I do believe we have a 35-foot bus on the 40X for most of the day, if not all of the day.
I see Mr. French just popped in. Mr. French, would you like to weigh in?
That is correct. It is a 35-foot Bluebird bus for most of the day. And the 1X buses are just a commuter bus with a commuter package with a little bit different seats than our standard bus.
We don't.
Also known as a superliner.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we're calling it a superliner now. Thank you very much.
Other questions? Mr. Jorstad, I don't have a question, but I wanted to commend you for getting all of those numbers right. Anything past 7 digits, I just round. You went for every single number, so well done.
That's a lot of numbers. Thank you. I appreciate it.
No, I wanted to actually, I'm sincerely impressed. So any questions? Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions. So thank you very much, Mr. Jorstad, for your report. Next on our agenda is the general manager's report.
Great, thank you very much. So just a few items. I guess I'll just follow up on the earlier discussion we had, and thank you again. I'm very honored to be the general manager for Cherriots, and take great pride in that. And so thank you for the recognition of the work that I and others in the organization do. Also, earlier this week, you may have had a chance to read, I sent the latest issue of APTA's Passenger Transport, APTA standing for American Public Transportation Association. In there was a couple of noteworthy articles. One was about the APTA Ad Wheel Awards, recognizing Cherriots for winning 2 categories in the competition. As well as there was an article announcing the results of the APTA's nominating committee for its upcoming board of directors and executive committee actions. And as part of the slate, I was selected to serve in a portfolio seat for small operations on the executive committee. APTA kind of has 2 governing bodies. One is the full board of directors, comprised of over 100 members throughout North America. And then they have the executive committee, which is a subset of that, a 25-member working group that kind of runs the day-to-day portion of the organization. I would serve on that as the small operations representative. I would, just for background, small operations in the APTA world means agencies that operate 100 buses or less in peak service. So there's small, medium, and large agencies. And I would note that the small operations group, by sheer numbers, is the largest transit agency grouping of that, because there are so many smaller operators. This would be for a 3-year term, serving on that committee, and at the APTA Board of Directors meeting in October, they'll take action on that when I'll continue to serve on that term. You recall, I currently sit on the executive committee filling an unfilled position. There was a vacancy that I was nominated to complete that term. and this will be my one full term. In addition to that, I serve on ODOT's Statewide Transportation Improvement Fund and Special Transportation Fund Rules Advisory Committee. Earlier this month, we held our 4th meeting. Next Thursday is our 5th meeting, and I believe there's definitely one, maybe 2 more meetings after that, and then we will wrap up our work to provide recommendations to ODOT to modify the merging of those 2 programs into one, which will result in the district having to change some of how they do business around the Statewide Transportation Improvement Fund Advisory Committee, and that work will commence as soon as the rules are finally published. And then I just wanted to close on a good note. As you know, since our last meeting, Cherriots now provides Sunday transit service, and we have completed 3 Sundays worth of service so far. Our ridership for the 3 Sundays combined is 3,043 rides, averaging just over 1,000 rides a Sunday. Well, certainly we're looking to see that number grow. Just remember, for the previous 42 years of Chariot service, nobody had a ride on Sundays. So you can see that there's a need for it in the community, and we're excited to be a provider to get people to places they need to go 7 days a week. And with that, that concludes my report.
Thank you, General Manager Pollock. We'll go ahead and proceed to the Board of Director reports, and we'll kick it off with Subdistrict 1, Director Nguyen.
Great, thank you, President Davidson. Appreciations to my colleague, Director Inahos Pressy, for covering me for last month's board. Per the minutes, I was traveling and was able to represent the district as a cohort member of the American Leadership Forum cohort number 40 class that commenced. We had our community building week. Shortly thereafter, I took off in an airplane and did some what I would call, or Director Krebs would usually call his travels, educational tourism. I traveled to the Bay Area and was able to appreciate the plethora of transportation options that the Bay Area offers, including BART, the rapid rail, cable car, car sharing provider, TNC network. The latest that I was able to try was these electric mopeds, like these little electric Vespas. That was very fun to experience, and also got to experience the ferry as well. So hoping to bring all of the travels for a worldwide transportation options experience back to our humble Mid-Willamette Valley in the near future, hopefully, as we look toward something similar to like the Clipper card. Again, I cannot speak to the equity that something like that would afford, especially low socioeconomic transit riders, because as most folks don't have the money up front to buy a monthly pass. Something like that, an alternative like that, accumulates their usage, and then once it gets past that monthly mark, it stops charging them. So otherwise, I'd like to do an update on the DEI committee report. Since my last report, our consultant, Keen Independent Research, has met with the Citizens Advisory Committee, Executive Committee, as well as our full DEI committee. They held kickoff meetings with internal stakeholder committee and board subcommittee. They drafted a report about policing in transit and at SAMTD, began an analysis of DEI communication strategies used by transit agencies, as well as best practices regarding this topic. They conducted a review of how public transit agencies and private corporations engage in DEI-related advocacy and legislation. A draft report is being prepared, so we're very anxiously or excited to read that. And finally, they conducted a district documents review for background research. And before I conclude my report, again, I just want to send kudos to the general manager for his exemplary year he had in his leadership. It's a very well-earned merit bonus that we voted on tonight. And also heartfelt empathy to parents of school-aged children out there. We had a COVID scare in my family. Luckily, everybody tested negative. That's why I was off camera the majority of this meeting. It has been a very scary, long weekend, and we are all well on the mend. But again, just my heart goes out to frontline staff, like the teachers, the unsung heroes, our transit providers, those folks that may not have the luxury of being able to work from home like others of us. So appreciations to everybody out there. Stay well. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Director Nguyen. Director Navarro.
Thank you, President Davidson. For my report, I went to the Kaiser Chamber of Government Affairs meeting this month. I showed up a little bit late. We were working on, I was in another meeting where we're trying to champion building some affordable housing in Kaiser. And things are looking good, pretty good, but I showed up late to the meeting. And so I did get a recap though. The general theme of the meeting was talking about redistricting and the hurdles that's going through right now. I did get to enjoy Sunday bus service though, which I really thought was awesome. My kids thought was awesome. I got the compliment that I was the best dad in the world for letting them ride with me. So I think that's something to celebrate. And I look forward to doing that. I mean, Sundays are really important to me in our family. So Sundays are family days, and so we take time to unplug and just kind of focus on ourselves. And so yeah, we got to celebrate that on the buses this month, which was pretty awesome. And with that, there hasn't been a meeting scheduled for the statewide Transportation Improvement Fund Advisory Committee yet, so that concludes my report.
Thank you, Director Navarro. Director Carney.
Thank you, President Davidson. SCATS is next week. Often it falls before our transit board meetings, and I had a moment of panic because I was also home with sick kids on Tuesday around noon, had gotten the call and thought, oh no, I'm not missing my meeting, am I? But luckily didn't have to. And I'm so excited for, this is just really gonna trip my card as kind of a transit and planning nerd. So excited for next week's agenda at SCATS, in part because of my day job. So for board members or others who don't know what I do, I work for the Department of Land Conservation and Development. I'm our communications manager and a policy analyst there. And not work that I'm personally involved in, but work that we kind of all pay attention to. And I had the opportunity to hear a very lengthy staff presentation just earlier today because our commission, which meets 6 times a year, had a 2-day meeting, today being the first day and tomorrow being the second day of their meeting. The commission heard a presentation from a group called the Climate Friendly and Equitable Communities Rulemaking. And so anybody that is interested in kind of our carbon future and reducing greenhouse gas emissions in the state of Oregon is going to be very encouraged by the outcomes of this rulemaking. And anybody who's going to have a problem with greenhouse gas reductions or changing the way and place that we develop new housing or changing the way that we travel in our urban centers is going to find this rulemaking very problematic. And there was a fair share of both voices at the table today. But there was a very evolved conversation about that. It includes, conversations about parking minimums and increased alternative transportation infrastructure. There's a heavy emphasis on placing housing and mixed development close to transit lines. So a lot of work that I think this board would be ultimately very interested in and very benefited by. And it happens to be the headline on next week's SCATS meeting. So you can imagine I can hardly wait. And I'm sure that all of my fellow SCATS policy committee members are just kind of ready to roll their eyes. That said, there is also an update next week on Cherriots Long Range Transit Plan with our very own Ted Stonecliffe. And then some of the items that I have reported to the board in the past about including the SCATS public participation plan and some call for projects. My kind of what I want to elevate for this group and just as more of a thinking piece, maybe for Alan and others, myself and board members, is the intersection of the upcoming updates of our transportation improvement plan and our STIP state transportation improvement plan that SCATS policy committee and our MPO is tasked with, and the intersection of the adoption of these statewide rules and how the interplay between those two things and the timing could either work to our benefit or confuse things in terms of having to sort of like change the message and the intent of our planning part way if these rules are adopted at a state level and at what point Salem might be phased in. Nobody kind of knows how those cards are going to land yet. But I just want to call attention to it because I think it is something that we need to pay attention to. And I still have not been able to sort of break out of my COVID bubble and get back to my neighborhood association meetings, which I dearly miss. I'm very much looking forward to the like kid vaccinations. Just give me those. And then I will feel like I can safely travel about the community without putting my family at risk. But other than that, I will conclude my report with my thanks to General Manager Pollock again for his leadership, and to my fellow board members for your leadership and creative collaboration in all of these conversations. I very much enjoy working with you, and big shout out to the Cherriot staff as always for the support that they give us in doing this work. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Carney. Director Hinojos-Pressey.
Yeah, so it was great to have the Citizens Advisory Committee meet just I don't think it was last week, it was this past Tuesday. Time is funny during the pandemic, that's all I'm gonna say. So parametrics came by, to talk about the South Salem Transit Center and Mobility Hub project, and returned to present to the CAC members their progress in phase 1 of the project to build out the South Salem Transit Center. And they updated the concept with drawings that included potential amenities and asked for CAC member feedback. And they will return later this year for a progress report. And our very own Cherriots Board President, Ian Davidson, also joined the committee meeting to deliver a presentation on the collaborative work Cherriots is involved in as part of Task Force for Salem's Climate Action Plan. President Davidson discussed the task force effort to help in reducing greenhouse gas emissions and working toward a goal of Salem becoming carbon neutral. President Davidson also discussed the critical role that Cherriots will play in helping achieve those goals for the area, and detailed some potential scenarios and requirements that will be necessary to achieve the city's goals. Which I will note that you told me I was being kind of gloom when I mentioned the wet bulb index in a few more board meetings back, but I feel like you're being kind of gloomy at the Citizens Advisory Committee meeting. Lastly, President Davidson did talk about the task force's progress up to date and overall timeline leading up to a city council public hearing on December 6th, 2021. The majority of the meeting was reserved for discussion with staff from Keene Independent Research, our consultant partner who is helping Cherriots with our DEI work. They explained their role and some work they will be performing with Cherriot staff in the coming months on matters related to DEI. They engaged the CAC in a discussion about any perceived inequities in our service. Keen discussed how to better utilize the CAC to reach more of the public at large so that service concerns could be heard by that group. There was definitely a strong push about getting more student input, more youth input. Keen discussed how to better, discussed enhancing the CAC role in advocacy for unmet service needs and service enhancements. And they challenged the members to discuss ways to broaden the profile of the CAC as well as broadening the membership through enhanced recruiting efforts. Lastly, Keen discussed with the members the potential to increase the frequency of the meetings to every other month instead of quarterly, which was something that a lot of the committee members were actually very hopeful to, because they feel that quarterly meetings, they tend to just kind of forget about the committee, or it's not as much on the forefront. And so maybe having like every other month would be more beneficial and lead to more work being completed. The next regular meeting is to be determined as to be decided by the committee chair. And then I did just want to note that, of course, as everyone knows, is that it's currently Hispanic Heritage Month, which started as Hispanic Heritage Week in 1968 by President Lyndon Johnson. And then it was expanded to a month in 1988 by President Reagan. And I just, quick statistic of note is that with the 2020 census, it appears that there's over 62 million Latinos in the United States, which makes up over 50% of the population. And I also just wanted to note the long history that Latinos have had in this country, specifically calling back to the Bracero program during World War II and how they helped fill a severe labor shortage that was being faced, especially in our farm worker labor. And we still have a high need for farm workers, but our Latino community has been supporting us, feeding us for such a long time. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Director Hinojos-Pressey. I'm next, and I've got a couple items to share about. The first was MWAC, so the Mid-Willamette Valley Area Commission on Transportation. We met the first of the month. We covered a variety of things, a lot of agenda items, candidly. Just at a high level, the Brooks interchange, we took a look at that. And the one I actually wanted to share, though, is the strategic bike ped prioritization that ODOT is undertaking for it's a future step. I think it starts in 2024. But some of you may recall that many, many months ago, the Oregon Transportation Commission was considering how to allocate STIP funding into different buckets. And we sent a letter advocating for a higher percentage of funding to be allocated to bike and pedestrian as well as transit. And they ultimately did make funding allocations, historic funding allocations. I think it's still not enough, but it's headed in the right direction. I was a little discouraged by some of the suggestions around prioritization. Here in the Mid-Willamette Valley region, there was a project identified in Independence that would include Cherriots, which for those of you that may not ride bikes, a Cherriot are the bike with the two arrows pointed. It's a share the road arrow. And there's quite a bit of research indicating that Cherriots are actually more dangerous for everyone, particularly those that are not as familiar as cyclists, because they think that it is safe when it typically is not. And so there's quite a few accidents, sometimes fatal accidents. And so that was disheartening to see that included. But I think generally speaking, ODOT and the OTC are, I hope, headed in the right direction on some of those prioritization steps. Let's see, COG, Council of Governments. So as I've mentioned before, I've been part of the legislative committee. And one of the things that we've been working on all summer is developing what we're calling convenings, where the Council of Governments, as well as other, basically all of these agencies that form a part of Council of Governments are invited, as well as legislative leaders and our federal delegation, to discuss and learn about a particular topic. We did what functioned as a trial run this week at our COG meeting, taking a look at homelessness issues within Marion and Polk County. And I think it was really successful. I'm excited to see the full-blown convenings take root. We have a lot of really important issues that are coming up on the docket, including homelessness, housing availability, and then ultimately public transit will have its time, and we'll be able to talk about the regional integration of public transit. So I think it's a really great opportunity for policymakers like us to learn, but also to share the information that we have in our lanes of expertise. I also attended for the first time my new assignment, which is the Salem Chamber of Commerce Policy Committee. And some of you may have seen the news reporting around it, where the CEO of Salem Hospital gave grim and dire reports around the COVID vaccine. And I don't know if there's value in sugarcoating it. That was not a meeting where she sugarcoated anything. And so I would just plug again, if you have not been vaccinated, please get vaccinated. Whether you do it for yourself, for someone you love, or for your neighbor, your aunt, I don't particularly care the reason, but I think getting vaccinated not only helps you and those that you love, but it helps the community at large. The picture that she painted was dire. And things are improving, but not nearly as fast as you might think. And so please get vaccinated. Please wear a mask. And if you'd like to read more, Statesman Journal, Salem Reporter, they all covered what you shared in that meeting. So the other piece I wanted to discuss is exactly what Director Hinojosa-Pressey talked about, is a presentation I gave at the Citizen Advisory Committee. So I will very briefly share my screen with you all to give a truncated version of the report I gave to the Citizen Advisory Committee. So can everyone see my screen? Okay, great. So as Director Hinojosa-Pressey talked about, I'm serving on the City of Salem's Climate Action Plan Task Force, and we're winding down. We're coming towards the end of our term of service. And so very briefly, if you happen to watch Salem City Council on Monday, I'm stealing slides from their presentation. But the City of Salem, or City Council, probably a year ago at this point, they adopted these goals to reduce Salem's greenhouse gas emissions by 50% by 2035, and then by 2050 to become a carbon neutral city. And so that was the goal. And then our role as task force members was to figure out, okay, how do we achieve that goal? And so they hired a consultant, they dedicated staff resources to figuring out how we could actually achieve that. And so here I'll pause very briefly. I've said this in this meeting many times, but transportation is the largest source of greenhouse gas emissions in Salem, in Marion County, in the state, and in the nation. And so it is, if you enjoy a healthy climate, a stable climate, transportation emissions need to be addressed. In Salem, it's 53% of all sector emissions come from the transportation sector. And so obviously Cherriots plays a role. We're part of the solution. So the consultants, they put together two scenarios that I will just very briefly walk everyone through. And I think these graphics in particular are quite compelling. So a business as usual scenario. So a scenario where the City of Salem doesn't make any additional efforts, but the state and federal government makes some efforts, the auto industry makes some changes, consumer preference changes a little bit, is this top blue line right here. And so we will see a reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, but it's nowhere near the amount that is needed. And so, and these are the City of Salem's greenhouse gas emissions. And so the goal that the City of Salem or City Council set is to, by 2035, to be here, and then by 2050 to be here. So scenario one, which I'll detail in just a moment, has some pretty, I would say, serious steps of action, does not get us to where we need to be. And the reasons for carbon neutrality in 2050 or 50% by 2035 are quite candidly that it's a question of whether or not we will have a stable climate and whether or not there will be mass migrations, ecosystems collapsing, and all sorts of dire scenarios. And so it's a question of how far we let the dial turn. And so our choices as individuals, but I think more importantly as governments, matter a great deal. And so the city of Salem, to their credit, are taking this seriously. And so they're processing this. And so scenario 1 has 10 like big items is what I would call them. And you can see here, I won't go through them all, but there's transportation plays a very prominent role, unsurprisingly. And so double the rate of electric vehicle adoption, quadruple the rate of bus ridership. And here is, I think, a piece of opportunity that we have is that as we, especially as we're undertaking this long range transit plan, we need to seriously consider how do we get to quadrupling of bus ridership? What does that look like? What funding streams do we need to tap into? What kind of infrastructure changes are needed to be made by the city, by the county, and by other partners? And then double the rate of walk at which residents use biking and walking. And so I really trying not to belabor the point, but we miss our goal with these kind of actions. So the climate crisis is not as bad as it could be, but it's still not, it's not great. And so we miss that. And then the question of why wasn't that target met? 47% of the issue is still transportation emissions. And so the second scenario, scenario 2, has additional changes. And we do, as a city, the city of Salem meets its target reduction by 2035, and it does meet its net zero greenhouse gas emission target by 2050. So it is all of those 10 items that I showed previously, plus these additional 9 items. And I'm happy to provide these slides. I don't want to dive too deeply into this, but there are, as I conveyed to the Citizen Advisory Committee and as Director Hinojosa Pressey was chiding me for, this is a it's a doomy and gloomy picture. I don't interpret it that way. I interpret it as a wonderful opportunity for us to tackle something that is difficult but incredibly important. It's an opportunity for us to build a better future. And I know that sounds cliche. I hear it in my voice, but to build a better future for ourselves and for our children. And I think we'll find at the end of this, when we have built a climate-friendly environment, climate-friendly cities, that they are just delightfully livable places. And we will breathe easier, both figuratively and literally. And I think there are changes well worth doing, but we need to be very deliberate about them. And so I think it's incumbent on us as partners in this effort to ensure that we are carrying our own weight. I take the city council at their word that they want to meet these goals. And one of the ways that we can help them meet that goal is to quadruple bus ridership. And so they will absolutely need to help us, but we need to chart the path forward on what that looks like. And so I'm really excited by some of the technical capabilities that were showcased in last month's meeting. I think we have a great opportunity to plug and play and see what it is that we can do to get ridership up. If we can increase ridership by, I think it was 40% just by making some infrastructure upgrades, I'm very curious to see what happens when we make significant changes and additional investments in frequency and coverage. Things that I will leave the actual experts to figure out, but it's exciting. And so I just wanted to convey that excitement. So with that, that concludes my report. Thank you for indulging with me as I evidently did an audiovisual presentation that I was not intending to. So thank you. Director Duncan.
Thank you, President Davidson. I want to say, as somebody who works in garbage and recycling as their day job, I love seeing the word circular economy come up. That makes me just thrilled, so thank you for that. So this was, I think, an interesting month for everybody. So along the vein of other people not being able to attend their meetings for one or another, said Core had a golf tournament this month instead of a meeting. So that was null and void. However, I did travel to Ashland and was able to try out their bus service. They are not fortunate to have Sunday service yet, but I found it convenient. It was lovely. I was able to take it from it's kind of like a hotel type of area that my family regularly stays while we're down in Ashland. It was really great, and some of the citizens that worked in the businesses in the community told me about their Teal bus, which is a recent addition to their program where you can schedule a pickup with it to go shopping and such, similar to our shop and ride. But I love how they all referred to it as the Teal bus. It's like apparently this very bright color. I don't remember if it's a converted old vehicle, but it is very prominent and noticeable in their small community. And I just thought it was it was very nice to hear people talking so fondly about it because it's so visible and noticeable. So that was a fun anecdote. I did attend the ODOT League of Oregon Cities Rail webinar this week, and I wanted to, and I don't want ODOT to think that I am chiding them for this. I just wanted to use it as an overall public service announcement that it is so easy to forget to turn on subtitles on Zoom. You have to do it before it starts. You can't backtrack. And it's not just people who are hearing impaired that need that service. People that have ADHD, people that are autistic, anybody that has some sort of auditory processing, anything, really, really rely on those subtitles, myself included. So I'm just going to go over the brief highlights of things that I found helpful. So just a reminder to everybody that lots of us like subtitles. Thank you. So they weren't specific on exactly where funds were going to go as far as by jurisdiction. They did say they're going to concentrate on high traffic and then also on low service areas. So I'm curious to see how that kind of phases out over the map of Oregon. But I was happy to see them talking about connecting sidewalks and bike lanes and also concentrating on illumination, which, as many of you know, is a thing for me. So happy to look forward and see, kind of how those things continue to play out in the community. Last week, Salem Area Chamber of Commerce greeters was at the Union Gospel Mission, which I know is one of our community partners. And I was interested to learn more. I haven't actually been to their new facility. I actually don't think I've ever toured the old one, and I was interested to learn about some of the unique requirements of participation in their programs. And so I'm hoping to learn a little bit more about their programs and then also our partnerships and ensuring the equitability for the community. But I just want to also reinforce that I really appreciate their ongoing support and helping us do what we do in Salem. So that. Last but not least, many of you know from my job I work in garbage and recycling, and so often communities will call me out to work on those things. And it often provides good information for the transit center. So I went and visited the Pringle Park community this last month. Those of you that don't know about the Pringle Park community in South Salem, I like to say that it's a blend between a suburb and a commune, where it was created with the idea of being this forward-thinking community. And for a very long time, so there was a lot of land that was allocated to this idea. And it was not developed for a long time for various reasons, including the recession. Long story short, a lot of land has been purchased by a developer, and there are 108 new dwelling units going in, half of which are already built and many of which are almost done. And people are moving in. They're selling faster than you'd ever think because these buildings, although are still exceeding the building standards of Oregon in spirit with the original intentions of the community, are more affordable than some of the housing that's gone in there previously. But I wanted to highlight this because this community is incredibly forward-thinking in their sustainability practices. And the reason they contacted me is because they hope to be a model community, not just in waste, but also in other aspects of sustainability, which will include transportation. We talked about bike lanes, we talked about buses, we talked about increasing arterial routes, et cetera. And I just really look forward to seeing their continued proactive approach to showing Salem what we can be like, especially as they increase membership in their community. And yeah, I'm just really looking forward to see what comes out of that area, and thank them for taking a proactive approach to making Salem more sustainable. So that's everything I have for now.
Great. Thank you for your report, Director Duncan. With that, that concludes all of the items we have for our agenda. I appreciate everyone who was able to participate, and for many that did not maybe show their face, but worked very diligently behind the scenes. And thank you to everyone on Team Cherriots who keep the buses running and are able to serve our community in this very important way. So with that, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.